Welcome to Mental Fitness, the Gateway to Success podcast, providing business owners, leaders, and entrepreneurs with the 3 INs: insights, inspirations, and intentional actions. Delivered through monologues and dialogues, we address topics like leadership, productivity, time management, work-life balance, and challenges like stress, conflict, mental health, and much more. Please do not hold back from suggesting specific topics and guests you would like on this podcast. Greetings and welcome to this episode of Mental Fitness, the Gateway to Success. I want to do a couple, 2 or maybe 3 episodes on the topic of meditation. It comes up a lot for me in my work, and there's a lot of different opinions, a lot of different belief structures and myths around meditation. And in my experience, most of it is just because most people in the Western world where I live just don't have much of an experience and an understanding of what meditation is. So I'm spending a bit of time in my coaching sharing with people my understanding of what meditation is. And let's just make it clear that my understanding is just my understanding. It's not right, it's not wrong, it's just my understanding. So what I want to do in the next couple of episodes, starting with this one, is dive a little bit deeper into why meditate, why bother doing this thing, and what is meditation actually, and is it really worthwhile doing? Why do people tend to tell me, oh yeah, I want to meditate, I've heard it's really good, but yet they're not doing it? Why are they not doing it? Some of the myth around that is meditation is complicated, or it's some voodoo weird thing from the East. And all of that are just, again, beliefs that many people are holding around meditation. And I want to help clear some of that up. And I also want to share, as this podcast is about mental fitness and it's about sharing stories, I want to share some stories along the way of my introduction to meditation, which was quite intense actually, and why meditation became a part of my life, and why I started teaching it over 30 years ago, and why I'm still teaching meditation today. When I'm working with business owners and business leaders, and why I had to create a completely different meditation structure or system, if you will, for my clients, as the traditional way of doing meditation just wasn't working at all. So a lot of things to cover. I find this topic quite really fascinating, and I want to, in this episode, debunk a few of those, I think, misconceptions a lot of people have, and also bring it down to earth, to what is meditation really about. So I didn't get introduced to this thing called meditation until I came here to New Zealand about 33 years ago. We had been here for a few months, and my wife is a New Zealander and I'm Danish, and she dragged me here. That's my story. Hers is slightly different. And when I came here, and on our way here, we met a lady. We had to stop over in Thailand, and she was talking about, this amazing thing called meditation, and this old Burmese monk that was traveling around and offering these courses, and we should look it up because she thought that he might be coming to New Zealand. So when we got here, somewhere along the way in the first few months, we looked it up, and sure enough, this guy was coming to offer what they called a Vipassana meditation 10-day silent retreat. So we thought, oh, well, why not? Why not sign up for that? And for those of you who understand meditation a little bit, you will know that signing up for a 10-day silent Vipassana retreat with 14 hours of meditation a day is not the way to start your experience of meditation. But luckily, maybe in a way, we didn't know that. I didn't know that. So it sounded like a good idea at the time. So my wife and I, we signed up for this 10-day and traveled to this amazing place outside of Wellington in New Zealand and stepped into 10 days of silent meditation. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail with that now. I'll tell more stories of that because that's really, it was an incredible experience in so many ways. I was in so much pain and so much frustration and so much wanting to give up. And also, I had an experience, I think around day six, five, six, a profound transformational experience around myself and not so much this thing we call meditation, but the learning and the insight that I got from this meditation thing. And in short, that really set me up. And I committed myself to meditation and spent literally thousands of hours sitting cross-legged on a bloody cushion. And I'll come to that as well, because let's make it really clear that sitting cross-legged on a cushion does not mean you're meditating. Because I've spent a lot of time sitting cross-legged on a cushion, not meditating, just being in pain, being in frustration, and not getting anywhere. Um, so I want to get across that meditation is something that can be done anywhere, everywhere, in any situation. And it only comes down to our level of awareness and our level of practice to where we can and where we can't. We can't do it. So nothing wrong with sitting cross-legged on a cushion if that's your thing. And it was my thing for a little while until it became not my thing. I can still sit down on a cushion cross-legged and meditate or not meditate, but I do that very rarely these days. I have found other ways that are far more useful and profound for me, and particularly for people in the world of busyness, business and busyness, which if you're listening to this, most likely you are one of those. So, um, for fear of this getting too long, I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do for this episode is diving into what is meditation actually. Again, from my viewpoint, but we're also going to dive in a little bit into the root meaning of meditation. So for me, what meditation means to me, it is a state of investigation. To meditate on something is to investigate into something. So just sitting in stillness and focusing on your breathing in a way, you could say it's not meditation. Another way you could say it is, again, depending on why you're doing it. Um, I also want in this journey to make a distinction between terms like mindfulness, awareness, mindfulness, and meditation. So for a lot of people in the way they are practicing meditation is the same as practicing mindfulness. Nothing wrong with that. For me, meditation is a bit deeper than that. So just being aware for me personally is not meditation. That's just I'm aware. I'm mindful of what I'm experiencing. I'm mindful of my breath or the feeling of my ass on the seat. Meditation for me goes deeper than that. So to bring a little bit of research to the session today, um, I've looked into the root meaning of the word meditation, and I want to share that with you, not just because it's completely in line with what I just said and the way I've been working with meditation for a long time, but I think particularly for Westerners, very sort of intellectually focused, it's really good to understand so we can take that understanding and then we can drop it and then we can meditate. Because if our intellect and our Western mind is not on board with what we are doing, it will tend to interfere. And those beliefs that you might have there around meditation that are it's something weird, it is something spiritual, it is something Eastern, or it's definitely not for me, or it's too difficult, or I can't sit on a cushion cross-legged for more than half a minute without being in pain, all of that. We can let go of all of that and then dive into what is this thing that we call meditation. And then we can do it. And then we can get the benefits. So we'll look a bit more at that maybe in the next episode, like what are the outcomes of meditation? What is the purpose of meditation? And for now, let's just dive in. And I'm going to do a little bit of reading out here because I can't remember all these fancy words here. So my apologies for looking down on my notes here. So the root meaning of the word meditation traces back to Latin, specifically to the verb meditārī, which means to think, to contemplate, to reflect, or to consider deeply. Um, so the way they're like when we go into this and breaking it down, so the Latin meditare is to think over, to reflect, or to contemplate. And it comes from the same root as meditārī, meaning to heal. Right? This is very important, which also is related to medicine. So in its very origin, meditation carried the dual sense of deep contemplation and healing. And now we're starting touching in on why do we meditate? Because in essence, it is about healing, which is a very big topic, and healing takes place when we do meditation at so many different levels, including physical healing. So what they say here is that over time, the word evolved through the Old French meditation. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that right, and then Middle English, maintaining the core idea of intentional mental engagement, thinking deeply, reflecting inwardly, and focusing attention for insight and healing. And I'm smiling all over my face here because, like, that's to me really what meditation is about and why I still meditate these days, 30 plus years down the track, albeit in a completely different way than the way I learned it originally. So let's dive a little bit further. If you're still awake, if you're still listening, um, so we can then take the root meaning comes from the Latin, and the practice and experience of meditation have taken quite different shapes in the Western, we could call the Western world and the Eastern or traditions. Yet they are still beautifully connected to the root meaning, which is deep reflection and healing. So let's take the Western tradition first. So in the Western world, particularly through Christian, philosophical, and later psychological traditions, meditation evolved as a mental or spiritual reflection, a process of pondering, praying, or contemplating the truth. So early Christian mystics practiced meditatio as a step toward contemplatio. Oh, fancy old words here, which means reading scripture, reflecting deeply, and then resting in divine presence. Isn't that beautiful? So philosophers like Marcus Aurelius and Descartes used meditation as mental training, thinking with focus and purpose. Ah, and then modern psychology later reframed it as a mental exercise for awareness and healing, connecting back to meditārī. which is to heal. So in West, meditation often meant thinking deeply to understand, to connect, or to heal. Now, what about if we go to the Eastern traditions? And we will see it's a very different picture, yet it connects back to the same place, aiming for the same result, just approached in a different way. So in the Eastern traditions, the practice we call meditation focuses less on the thinking and more of the being, means profound stillness of mind, the stage where the observer and the observed dissolves into pure awareness, to transcend thought, which is to see the reality as it is, beyond the mental noise, beyond the intellect of thinking things, but actually truly experience what is as it is. Um, and it still fulfills the root purpose of meditation, doesn't it? Which is to heal, to understand, and to become whole, but through presence rather than thought. So let's just recap those. The Western part of meditation was to think deeply, which leads to understanding, which then leads to healing. Whereas the Eastern part is stop thinking and awaken, which then leads to healing. So at the heart, both aim for integration, awareness, and wholeness, returning the mind to balance. Whew. It was quite a mouthful, wasn't it? However, if you are still awake and you're still with me, I really trust and hope that you can see the deeper meaning and the purpose of meditation, and that you can see that we don't need to sit on a cushion to do that. We can sit in a chair. We can be driving a car. One of my most favorite places to meditate, where I get my most deep meditation, is driving. So I can drive for hours and hours without getting tired and absolutely, completely focused. I've been driving for 40 plus, only close to 50 years, probably close to 1 million kilometers. I've never been involved in an accident. So it is possible to bring that part of meditation into a place like that, where we are so consciously aware and present with what we are doing, and all our senses are completely alert. So we see everything on the road. If anything danger, we slow down in the right places, speed up in the right places, and so on. So we can meditate while we are while we're doing things like cooking, things like brushing our teeth, things where the action itself is on autopilot, where our mind is happy to drive the car as long as we keep our eyes open. So also this idea that to meditate, you need to close your eyes. It's absolutely BS. You don't need to do that. That doesn't mean you can and you shouldn't. There are incredible value in closing our eyes when we go in to a place of meditation. It has its place. And maybe I will talk a bit more about that in another episode. So to finish with this here for this episode, and then the next episode, I want to dive in more into some actual meditation practices that you can take with you. Let's link this to what this podcast is all about, which is mental fitness. So where does meditation fit into mental fitness? It fits in everywhere. On one hand, the more mentally fit you are, the more value you will get out of meditation. Meditation, let's be honest here, it's actually not easy. It- because of the incredible value out of it, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. And everybody would be much happier and much more at ease and experience much more peace in their life. It is not that easy. So the higher your level of mental fitness is, means that the more likely you are to be able to stick to some practices, whether they're just a few minutes a day or they're a few hours a day, doesn't matter. Mental fitness allows us, it gives us the foundation on which we can practice whatever meditation practice you choose to do. And there's no shortage of them. And what I've experienced in my life at different stages along these decades, I needed different types of practices to learn what I needed to learn and to grow and to heal. Um, so the way I meditate today is completely different to the way I learned it 30 plus years ago. And again, not right or wrong, just different. And my encouragement to you, if you want to dive into this, or if you already are diving into this, always look for what is the right fit for you. And it takes mental fitness to practice. So that's that side of the mental fitness playing into your meditation practice. Now let's flip the coin completely. On the other side is what mental fitness can you gain from meditating? And again, unlimited. One of the most powerful tools I have for people to grow their mental fitness is meditation. Again, meditation that works for you. So when I coach my clients individually, my job is to always find where are they at, what is their current awareness, what are their current beliefs about meditation, and then finding a way that works for that person so they will actually do it, whatever it is. And through the doing comes the growth of their mental fitness. Meditation is an incredibly powerful tool for growing mental fitness. So you can see it's like you meditate and it grows your mental fitness and then allows you to meditate even further or deeper, which then grows your mental fitness, which then supports your deeper learning and growth with your meditation, and on and on and on and on and on it goes. And that is still the same for me. There's no difference between me and other people in that sense. I might be a little bit higher up the ladder, not because I'm smarter or better, but because I have done a lot of it over the decades. And I still do it because it's still working for me. And in doing that, in the learning I've had over the years, because it's been so profound, I just want to share it with other people. I just want to share it with you. So I hope that there was something here you can take with you. Please pop in the comments what landed for you. And if there's anything specific you would like me to focus on, or you got any stories, or even if you want to come on my podcast as a guest and share your meditation journey with our audience. So with that, thank you for tuning in today. And go and do some meditation, which means go and do some contemplation, whether that's contemplating your navel or any anything else that works for you. With that core essence in mind, that meditation is about contemplation, it is about awakening, it is about healing, it is about learning, it is about growing, and all of that. They have to be good for you. All the best with it. Till next time. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Mental Fitness, the Gateway to Success. If you have stories of how mental fitness has benefited you that you are happy to share, go to my website, meditārī, click on podcast and fill in the guest application form. If you want direct support from me utilizing my 40 years of mental fitness learning and practice, email me at coach@mikael.nz or message me on LinkedIn. Any feedback, review, share, follow, like, or any other good stuff is of course appreciated. Thank you for listening to Mental Fitness, the Gateway to Success podcast. I'm your host, Mikael Nielsen.